So sometime late Sunday night, TMZ reported the news, and a bunch of the dirt sheets of wrestling reported the news that Spike TV might not renew TNA Wrestling's contract by the end of October. Now, negotiations are still going on, and it's not for sure that TNA is canceled. But by God, if TNA gets canceled, this is a huge blow to professional wrestling here in America. I don't care what anyone has to say about TNA. If you're a TNA hater and you just hate TNA passionately, if you're a WWE sheep and you just love the WWE, or if you're a TNA lover and you love TNA regardless of anything they do, it sucks as a professional wrestling fan and someone that enjoys professional wrestling that I could be losing another mainstream professional wrestling product on my TV. That's just the bottom line. And it sucks because, here's the thing. It's like the only product that's worth a damn that, people, I guess, could probably casually tune in now is WWE if TNA goes away. Ring of Honor, it's on at random times on Sinclair. I remember when I went to Las Vegas, I went to I don't even know what channel it was. I went to a random ass channel and I saw Ring of Honor on there. I was like, what the fuck, Ring of Honor? And I checked the time and it was 11 o'clock. Really, 11 o'clock for a wrestling show? That's a little bit late if you ask me. 11 o'clock? I wouldn't start my show at 11 p.m. That's just me. And so that's the thing. It's like, there's not a lot of wrestling out there. And if TNA goes down, we are forced just to watch the WWE. There's nothing else. And I get it. Some of you guys are just fine with it. Some of you guys just don't care. But if you're a professional wrestling fan, you should care more. Because the more wrestling, the better the product, the better the competition, the better the talent. We will get more talent out of it. That's what's good about having more professional wrestling out there for the mainstream public. And it's such a shame because I felt like in 2005 through 2007, TNA was one of my favorite products. That's just the bottom line. I thought TNA was way better than the WWE back in 2005 and 2007. Because back then, WWE, I will say it was boring. I did not like the WWE from 2005 to 2007. It was some of my least favorite times as a professional wrestling fan. You knew the WWE was struggling when they had to rehash DX. They had to bring back DX to make wrestling a little bit interesting back in 2006. And you knew they were struggling when they had to rehash EC fucking W in 2006. You knew the WWE wasn't a good product when they had to rehash old acts that were great in the late 90s. That's just the bottom line. That's just how I felt. I just felt none of the storylines were interesting. I felt John Cena and Edge is not really that great of a rivalry. Everyone will shove that rivalry down your throat and say, oh, it was a fucking awesome rivalry. I was sick and tired of it because it was just a dumb rivalry. Because at the end of the day, we knew who was going to win. It's just, to me personally, the WWE back then was just so hard to watch. Maybe an occasional SmackDown would be good, but the Monday Night Raw product, it was terrible. Don't get me wrong, the WWE had a nice young nucleus at the time. They definitely had, great young up-and-comers like CM Punk and John Morrison and Umaga, Bobby Lashley. Jeff Hardy recently came back to that company around that time. They definitely had like a nice nucleus to build around. But ultimately, at the end of the day, none of those guys were being featured as main players. CM Punk was being held down a lot. John Morrison, really, to be honest, went through so many gimmick changes. First, he was Johnny Nitro, then became John Morrison, and then he was with The Miz. And then, Umaga, yes, he was featured in main feuds with John Cena, but he never overcame those obstacles, and he never became a legit champion for them. Bobby Lashley was just being shoved down our throats, and this is coming from one of the bigger Lashley fans. I completely understand. Bobby Lashley was just being shoved down our throats. And Jeff Hardy, they didn't give Jeff Hardy his moment until 2008, and he was just always buried underneath the card. See, that's just the thing. They had something to WWE. They definitely had a talent roster that was really, really fucking good, but the WWE would not use those guys correctly. But when it came down to TNA, and also one thing about TNA that they had better than WWE from 2005 to 2007, and you guys will be surprised when I say this, but TNA had better action than the WWE. TNA, I felt, had better storylines than the WWE from 2005 to 2007. It felt like TNA was a company that was giving young, fresh product a new chance. Here was the WWE not really pushing their young, fresh product. They were more worried about pushing the Cena, Edge, Batista, and Orton, those four. And then the Undertaker and Shawn Michaels will show up every once in a while. But with TNA, You had your nice group of veterans. You had Christian Cage, someone who everyone loved in the WWE, felt Christian should have been someone that could have at least challenged for the WWE Championship and have a long-time feud with John Cena, but instead Christian was buried underneath the card, and here he is breaking the glass ceiling, getting his chance in TNA. You had a Sting that probably people haven't seen since WCW and since that closed down, so you had a Sting once again on mainstream TV to help with what some of these younger superstars. You had a Samoa Joe, someone who was big on the independent scene, someone that definitely people tape traded a lot of their matches, had great matches with CM Punk. Those Joe and Punk trilogy matches, just fucking awesome. You had Samoa Joe there. You had AJ Styles, someone that was just simply phenomenal to watch. You had a Daniels, and you had actually edgy characters. James Storm, Tennessee Cowboy, would break beer bottles over the head of people. The Latin American Exchange, a tag team fighting for Mexican rights, and they were harsh about it. They were not some pussy-whipped tag team. Because the WWE, they were so pussy-whipped back then. They weren't doing anything edgy on their television. The most edgiest shit you were seeing from WWE in 2005 through 2007 was probably Vince McMahon's limo getting blown up. That is the most edgiest shit that you were seeing, or shit falling from the sky. You weren't seeing anything edgy from the WWE, but TNA was giving us that edgy product, and it was doing well, in my personal opinion. It was some of my favorite times in TNA was from late 2005 to early 2007. But the problem with TNA is not only is it damn not really utilizing the veterans well, like the Kurt Angles and Stings and the Christian Cages, but it's also because Spike TV did a terrible job promoting them. Let me just say this. The TNA and Spike TV split, wise, TNA will probably leave Spike TV. It's 60% TNA and it's 40% Spike TV. And I'll talk about the 60% TNA's fault when I get down to it. But it is 40% Spike TV's fault because Spike TV has done such a poor job promoting TNA over the years. When TNA was first starting out, boy, they did a great job promoting TNA Impact, shoving it down your throats that this is a 60-minute wrestling show, adrenaline rush, a new alternative to professional wrestling. This was something great, and especially when you looked at Spike TV, they are one of the main reasons why the UFC became so popular. The UFC would like to bash Spike TV and Viacom, but Dana White knows deep down inside, if it wasn't for Spike TV, if it wasn't for Viacom giving the UFC and that Ultimate Fighter reality show a chance, there would be no great UFC there is today. The UFC would not be as big as it is today, and that's just the truth. But Viacom and Spike TV, they helped the UFC, and they were doing a great job promoting the UFC, and they were doing a great job at the start to promote TNA. But anytime it just felt like TNA was gaining some traction, it felt like TNA had something going, Spike TV would just throw the rug underneath them, would stop promoting them, would not see any commercials for them. How many times were you guys, back in early 2005 through 2006, you would watch WWE product on the USA Network, and you would notice, holy crap, there was a TNA commercial. Now, fast forward from 2007 to 2014, how many TNA commercials do you see? On WWE product? The last time I saw a TNA commercial during a WWE television show was the Aces and Eights crap. That was the last time I've ever seen TNA have a commercial during a WWE show, was when they were doing the Aces and Eights and Bully Ray was revealed as the Aces and Eights leader. That was the last time. And so, really, to be honest, Spike TV just got lazy with it. They just didn't really care because they didn't feel like TNA or wrestling was really that marketable for them. You know, when the WWE was on Spike TV, they were doing good ratings for them. They were definitely helping with the money. But the problem was Spike TV, they didn't really promote that much for the WWE because the WWE already had a following. It already had a fan base. So people were going to watch it regardless. Spike TV just assumed TNA would do the same amount of numbers as WWE. They just assumed that shit. They just sit there and assume, well, we have another wrestling product that WWE, they may have left us, but we got TNA Impact. We got this product, and this will do well because it's wrestling. We had wrestling before on this network, so now we can have wrestling again on this network, and we'll be fine. No, Spike, you got to promote this fucking shit like you did in early 2005 and 2006. I don't know how many people did not know that TNA moved to Thursday nights. Really, no one knew TNA moved to Thursday nights. And then not only that, your first Thursday night show, you're trying to hype this up as a big 3 hours. Oh, whoops, Spike TV didn't even give you 3 hours, TNA. They only gave you 2 hours, and we came in at the middle of Samoa Joe beating Christopher Daniels' ass for the X Division title. Not a good move, TNA. Spike TV is definitely to blame for some of the reasons why TNA is not successful as it is today. But like I said, it's 60-40. 40% is Spike TV's fault, and Spike TV being an incompetent network and not promoting TNA well, but it's also 60% TNA's fault why TNA is not successful. 60% of it is TNA's fault, though. It is. It really is TNA's fault. Because when you look at it, from 2010 through 2014, TNA has just been bad. And TNA has turned off a lot of people from their product. I always say this, you know, it's so stupid that TNA cannot feel different than the WWE. I would hate watching TNA from 2008 to 2009 to 2010 to 2011, 12, 13, 14. I would hate watching TNA around those times because 2008 and 2009 for TNA, they were decent years, I would say. You know, 2008 had a decent year. 2009 was interesting with the main event Mafia stuff, and it felt like they were going into a different direction. You know, they were doing that whole Wrestling Matters Here stuff, and AJ Styles and Samoa Joe and Christopher Daniels were being featured very heavily at that time, and you felt like, wow, if TNA would have just done this sooner, how much better would this product be? Instead of using the Sting to put over AJ Styles in 2009, why didn't you use Sting to put over AJ Styles in 2006? How come, you know, we couldn't have it where, you know, Samoa Joe was this dominant champion and Bobby Roode beats him for that belt? How come James Storm never really got featured heavily? How come, you know, none of your TNA guys featured heavily? I understand Kurt Angle, Jeff Hardy, Mr. Anderson. The list can go on and on of all these WWE rejects are much bigger names and much more marketable names than some of the guys you have now. But the thing is, what would make TNA more watchable than the WWE is if we saw something different. Because the WWE, when you look at their guys in the main event, they're always 6'5", big guys, muscle guys. But you go to TNA and you notice, like, holy crap, here's this small guy named Austin Aries, and he's facing this big guy named Samoa Joe. How does Austin Aries stand a chance against this guy? Or, you know, how are these guys believable? And then you see Austin Aries and Samoa Joe put on a match, and then you're just like, holy shit. This is why TNA is different. I can see why people dig this TNA stuff. It's not like watching the same cartoon characters that I see on the WWE. Their main events are more refreshing. Their matches are more refreshing. They have a unique look and feel to them. I can really buy into this product. But instead, TNA just made it feel just like a WWE 2.0 carbon clone, you know, pushing the WWE guys. You know, a lot of people would compare TNA to WCW sometimes with some of the stupid storylines they would do, always having the power struggle storylines. I mean, if you look at it from 2010 to 2014, it was probably some of the worst stuff in TNA. I mean, look at it. 2010, oh, you bring in Hogan. That's great. Too bad Hulk Hogan never talked about TNA wrestling when he would ever go on these major talk shows, because Hulk Hogan, he's one of the biggest names in wrestling. Hulk Hogan can get onto any network he wants. He can knock on ESPN's door. They're like, oh, the Hulkster baby. He's like, what's up, brother? Let me talk about some TNA. He didn't really talk about TNA. I think the only time he ever really promoted TNA was the fact that maybe his daughter, Brooke Hogan, would wrestle in the middle of the fucking ring. Really, Hogan? That's the only time you're going to promote TNA is because your fucking daughter could wrestle in the ring. That is just stupid. Just dumb. What a waste of promotion for TNA. You know, they bring in Hogan. They do this whole Monday Night Wars thing. That was a fucking flop. Then you look at, you know, the whole Jeff Hardy turning heel. This could actually have led to a good fucking storyline, because here's Jeff Hardy, who a lot of wrestling fans love, but then you have him turn heel. And it's just, oh my God, something refreshed, something unique. Jeff Hardy's a heel, but it wasn't building up to where Jeff Hardy would drop the belt to, let's say, a Samoa Joe or an AJ Styles or a Bobby Roode or James Storm or Kazarian or Daniels. No, it was building up for a big Jeff Hardy and RVD match. Really? That's what we want to see? Rob Van Dam and Jeff Hardy fighting for the TNA World title? This ain't 2002 TNA. This is not Rob Van Dam and Jeff Hardy fighting for the IC Championship. This is 2010. And so you turn Jeff Hardy heel, put him in this stupid-ass faction Immortal, and then you have another stupid-ass faction like the Fortune, and then you have another stupid faction, EV 2.0, then you have another stupid faction called World Elite, and we don't know who's a part of who. It was so confusing watching TNA back then. In 2011, you know, everyone, I swear to God, everyone was all of a sudden on the TNA hype train and calling 2011 a good year for TNA when I thought it was a bad year. Destination X was probably the best part of TNA in 2011. Bound for Glory 2011, It was a bad show minus Hogan versus Sting. The Bound for Glory series was completely wasted in 2011. And then when you look at 2012, I remember 2012, this was a year that I felt TNA needed badly. And why should I ask? Why should I say that? Because in 2012, really, to be honest, the WWE only had one thing going for it. Actually, two things going for it. They had CM Punk as WWE Champion, and they had John Cena versus The Rock. That was the two things that I felt the WWE had going for it at the time. John Cena versus The Rock was a once-in-a-lifetime thing. Sure, the match, whether how you look at it, good, great, or bad, it doesn't matter. It happened, and it was a big success for the WWE. And so now the WWE got CM Punk as champion. But what was the WWE doing with CM Punk? He was treated like a mid-card piece of shit. That's how CM Punk was treated during all that time he was WWE champion. He wasn't treated like a big deal. And then here was TNA in 2012 with their long-reigning X Division champion, the greatest man who ever lived in Austin Aries. And you have Austin Aries make this new thing called Option C. Holy crap, the X Division belt, the belt that pretty much made TNA into a successful organization, the belt that probably got a lot of people into TNA because they saw an Ultimate X match on TV, or they saw P.D. Williams hit the Canadian Destroyer, or they saw an X Division match and they were just saying, God damn, the X Division is sick, I love the X Division. That belt is finally being treated like something. That belt is treated like a big deal. Austin Aries is cashing in Option C, and Austin Aries has a chance to be a world heavyweight champion in professional wrestling. And by God, he did it. In the summer of 2012, I thought it was a great time for TNA. If anything, I thought it was a great fucking time, and I thought TNA was making a huge steps forward with Austin Aries as champion. I really did, because at the time, like I said, CM Punk, he was treated like a mid-card piece of shit compared to the feuds with John Cena and John Laurinaitis. Yes, the biggest feud in the WWE from 2012 in their fucking eyes was John Cena versus John Laurinaitis. That was main eventing over CM Punk and Daniel Bryan matches. And so here was Austin Aries actually getting main event matches with TNA guys being featured, not the WWE Rejects, because the WWE Rejects and the WCW Rejects were doing mid-card crap, and that was good because they were helping build up other stars. That was good stuff. And so you thought to yourself, man, TNA is really doing good with Austin Aries. And then what do they do with Austin Aries? They give it to Jeff Hardy. And I understood why they gave it to Jeff Hardy at the time. I completely understand, because Jeff Hardy was coming up on his contract, and you wanted to please him, and you wanted to make him happy, but they never gave it back to Aries, or they never gave it to another TNA guy. Instead, they did these stupid stuff with Kurt Angle. Oh, Kurt Angle wants to prove he's a good person now. Oh, no, now Kurt Angle's a mean person. Like, get the fuck out of here. Like, really. This is the stuff that you try to build. Every time TNA felt like they were taking 2 steps forward, they will take 4 steps back. Look at the aces and eights. How terrible of that it was. First of all, you brought a bunch of irrelevant guys that no one really fucking cared about into this fucking stable. They had the most generic theme music of all time. It was the worst theme music. And then you finally gained traction with that. You have Bully Ray become the TNA World Champion because of this. He screwed Hulk Hogan. He screwed Brooke Hogan. Oh my God, Bully Ray's the mastermind. Who is going to stop this faction? And then once again, 4 steps back, because ultimately at the end of the day, you know, the Aces and Eights was just shoved down our throats, and you knew that this was mostly about WWE Rejects getting their shine and their polish, and not TNA guys getting their shine and polish. Why couldn't James Storm be the leader of the Aces and Eights? How come AJ Styles couldn't have been the leader of the Aces and Eights? I know everyone's going to say, well, Chase, you just said the Aces and Eights are a bad faction. But yeah, they were a bad faction, but they could have been a little bit more interesting if you had a TNA guy lead that faction. And actually, TNA guy, and he made this faction because he says he's pissed off of how TNA has changed and all that other crap, and he's pissed off about it. And so he made this faction to ruin TNA, and that's his goal. That's his mission. But instead, it was just all about the WWE Rejects and power struggle storylines. How many faction wars have we seen in fucking TNA? It's just sad, because 2010 through 2014, TNA, don't get me wrong, they've had some glimmer. They had some bright spots through those times. Like I said, Austin Aries and Bobby Roode being featured in main events. That's awesome. But it always came back to the same shit at the end of the day. Anytime I always felt like TNA was gaining some traction and gaining some great positive momentum, it would just come all crashing down. I always call it the Bound for Glory choke. They would always be hot before Bound for Glory. Everyone would be talking about TNA. Everyone would be excited about TNA. Everyone saying TNA is doing great stuff. You gotta watch Impact Wrestling. And then they would be steaming around the summertime for TNA. They'd be doing good stuff. People would be saying TNA is doing great stuff. This company is changing. And then Bound for Glory happens and they choke. And then it ends up being a mediocre show. And then afterwards, people stop caring about TNA. And people say this company will never fucking change. And that's just the truth. I don't care how much of a diehard TNA fan you are. Defending 2010 to 2014 is hard to do. I can't even defend that shit. By year basis, it's hard to defend those fucking years for TNA. It really is. I hate to say it. I know a lot of TNA fans won't like it or will agree with me. But it is hard to defend TNA for some of the bullshit that they did from 2010 through 2014. I really do hope TNA can clean their act up. I really do hope negotiations go through with TNA that they could probably stay on Spike TV still. I really do hope maybe another channel will find TNA because I want more professional wrestling on my TV. But really, to be honest, this is not Spike TV's fault if we don't have TNA on our televisions. It's TNA's fault. It's 60% their fault for doing a lot of stupid things with their company. TNA should have been always treated like an alternative, something different to the WWE, not a competition to the WWE. That's where I feel TNA has failed over the years of understanding. Be alternative. Be different. Don't be the same as the WWE because you don't want to be like the WWE right now because look at the WWE. They're not really that successful right now, are they? I don't care what anyone's saying. The stuff that we're seeing on TNA TV right now is not alternative. It feels the same as WWE. I don't care that they're in New York. I don't care that they're bringing in ECW guys. It still feels the fucking same. TNA, you have a chance until October to feel different and be an alternative. You really do. Try to change that. Try to be different. I really do hope you find a network deal. I don't want you to die because I want more professional wrestling in America. But if you don't clean your shit up and you don't change and you don't try to be the alternative we know you can be, you will not find that network and you will slowly die. That is my thoughts on TNA and the whole Spike TV situation. What do you guys think about this? Comment down below your thoughts. Do you agree with me of what I said in this video? Do you disagree with me? I would really like to hear. Make sure you guys follow me on Twitter at ChaseOliver68. Check out my website, Chillin' with Chase. And if you guys haven't already, check out yesterday's Q&A. I really like that addition to the Q&A. I would really like you guys to check it out and send in your questions because I'm pretty sure a lot of people will have questions after this video. But anyways, thank you all very much. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I am out of here. Enjoy your day. Peace.